Hi there. Let's do a quick video on brightness. I know it's an often question that's being asked about how to set brightness. Where do you set brightness? So the easiest place to set your brightness is on the controller tab. If you click on your controller, not all of them, but most controllers now have an option that says default port brightness. So if you do nothing anywhere else, this would be the brightness that is set for all of your props on every port. So if you do nothing at all, if you just have this, everything will be at 25%. Um, and this should be, you have it for various controllers, all right? So if you do nothing else, in this case, the default port brightness will be 30, but you can have the options to change it. So let's go. I'm on this controller. I'm going to go to Visualizer. Now, if you want to have this port, everything on this port to be a different brightness, so for example, you might have strips or you might have floodlights or something like that. So you can right click on the red, the port number itself, and you should be able to set port brightness there. No, you cannot. You would have to come over here and you set it on an individual prop. Right click, set port brightness, set brightness right there, set brightness. So if I want to override this one, you can say set it to 50. Now, there's a little caveat here on some controllers, specifically a Falcon controller. If you set the port brightness or the model brightness, sorry, confused you here, but if you set the model brightness here to one value, it sets it for all of the remaining props on that port. That's specific to Falcon. On other controllers, it is only for that particular model. All right. So if I was, for example, down, let's go and put this guy in front of him. There you go. That would mean this would be brightness of 50%, and this guy would also get 50 if it was not overridden. So if I want to come back in here and set brightness here, set it to 30, he would now be 30. So you can set the brightness um, on the individual models. Now, remember we had a default port brightness. So that has nothing to do anymore because we've specifically changed the brightness. And you can see on the bottom of the tooltip there, it says brightness to 50. So if we come back here and say clear the brightness, that's not the same as setting it to 100. Clearing it is removing the value. Now it would pull up, it would get the value of the default port brightness of 30%. Notice that in the tooltip, it no longer says brightness, therefore it's not set, therefore it's grabbing it from your default, okay? So the default is only if nothing else is overriding it over here on the visualizer. Now, some controllers do not even have the ability to set the brightness. So let's go show how that happens. If you're in the layout, now this is this would be unusual to set it here, but you can set it here. You can go to the prop, and if you scroll down, this set brightness is exactly the same as what you do on the visualizer. So you don't need to do anything here on the controller side of things. But I think if you go down to, I want to say, where is it? Dimming curves. It's a kind of a weird term. I guess it's a legacy term, but dimming curves. There is a brightness in here. Now, this is very different than the brightness at the port and the controller level. This is actually a brightness that is stored and processed within xLights. So we had a default port brightness of 30. We set the model to 50, therefore it was definitely going to be at 50. But this is actually in addition to. So if you were to tweak this brightness, make it a little lower, this would be in addition to the controller settings. This is the only way it would be in addition to. If you have a default on the controller and then you set it on the model, it's not an addition to, it's one or the other, but this is done in addition to. So it's very unusual to set it here, but some controllers do not have the ability to set brightness. I believe WLED is one of those, but I'm not certain. So you might set it here on the model level. Um, and yet another spot to control brightness. Again, a little unusual. I'm going to create a sequence animation, and I'm going to um, pull in, we'll just put a color wash stuff. Fine. Doesn't matter. And we click on that. There is a brightness here. Again, so if you turn the brightness down here, this will be in addition to the port brace. Now it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's a combination. There's a fudge factor involved here, but this means this particular prop or group in this case will be a little less bright than your setting that you put in the controller or on the prop itself, or props in this case in groups. So again, very unusual to set it here. Probably wouldn't normally set it here. One place that we find that you might want to set it here is on the if you have a movie or a video effect. If you drop a video effect in there, sometimes it helps to boost a video just a little bit or even take it down a little bit. Now, that's going to be just trial and error. What does it look like on your lights? Sometimes you'll find that running it a little brighter is better versus a little darker is better. So that's going to be a case by case scenario. But this is one case where you might use brightness on the effect level. Remember, this is on each effect. Whereas if we go back to the controllers, you have the default, that's for the entire controller. And if you go to the visualizer, that's for the prop itself. Okay. Beware, look at the tooltip and watch there. You can see on the tooltip, it says brightness 30%. I'm assuming it's because it's the same prop, different port. This would be brightness of 30% as well. If I click on here and I clear the brightness, that should clear the brightness on this one because it's the second port of the same prop. Okay, so there you go. Brightness, setting it on the default for the entire controller, how you can override it on the individual props. Sometimes you might have the ability to change it here. I don't think so, but I thought there was, but maybe I could be mistaken. Definitely on the props itself, not on the port, but on the props itself. I guess that makes sense because we do not store brightness anywhere on the port itself. It's always on the model. So right click on the model and you can change the brightness here. That is exactly the same, doing it there, but a little easier than coming to the prop, going down to the controller section and setting brightness here. So you could do the same thing, but it's just a little more convenient to do it in the visualizer. And you can say 30 there, and that's accomplishing the exact same thing, but doing it on the visualizer is simpler. Note as well that if you look down this row, you can see those values that were set on the individual props. So I have 10, 10, 10, 10, 40, 40, 40. So you can quickly visualize what you have set, specifically overriding what you set for the controller. So there's everything you need to know about brightness and setting it on your controller. Have a great day. See you in the Zoom room. Bye now.